I think I know everybody now. I've met Peter, so I think I know everybody else here, but great to see you. So I'm going to run through some of the basics. There's a lot of people here who know a lot of the basics. I'm going to run through some of the basics kind of quickly because there's two specific initiatives I want to make sure that we are covering, and I just have to figure out how this little pointer thing works on this thing. So, I mean, here's the basic timeline. As was mentioned, we're 50 plus years looking to make a permanent museum. In 2002, we had a museum committee formed. In 2009, became a foundation. In 2014, contributed along with the society to the 350th anniversary celebrations. A little bit rejuvenated interest in history among the entire population of the county. 2019 began engaging in development sessions with museum services consultants and experts. We did a series of public outreach sessions across the county to build up. And we provided some preliminary specs to Stafford County for the Downtown Stafford Museum. So that project has had different names. It's up in the air. It's, you know, on, it's off, it's in, it's out, it's political football. You know, whether they ever build it is yet to be determined, but they keep asking us for details, and what it has done for us, and this is really rather valuable, it has forced us to consolidate and define what we want. Previous to that, we really just said we wanted a museum, and we never really said, how many square feet do we want? What do we want it to do? What do we want it to be? All of that. So we've spent time now over the last 4 years really getting into the weeds on a lot of that. In 2021, we merged with the Historic Society so that it is now one organization. So that's who I am. I'm here as part of the same organization that is hosting this, the Historic Society. We are all one organization, and we have completed that merger, including all the financial engagements. So we went from 2 nonprofits to 1. We have been developing now for a couple of years, really since before COVID, community outreach programs and public engagement on multiple levels, and you'll see a bunch of those here shortly. So what's happening soon? Tomorrow is the unveiling of discoverstafford.org. By all means, make sure you check that out. Steve Hilker has done the 90% of the work. I've been helping him with that, but we are so excited about how, among other things, the entire website is now searchable. And when you start looking at, what, conservatively 1,000 images?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah. So, you know, we had to go through and keyword all of those images, all of those articles that have been ever written, ever published, all of the newsletters that have ever been done, keyword them all, make sure they're searchable. There's probably inevitably a challenge here and there, but you didn't used to be able to do that. You used to have to be able to figure out where was the article you were looking for, under what category, and it was a little more complicated. So that's really an improvement, we think. The other thing that is snazzy that we love, 2 things. The virtual reality program is on there now, so you'll be able to go on, particularly young people will target that at, meaning that's almost like a virtual reality game, which in this moment is concentrated on Revolutionary Era, but with hopes that we'll expand that in the future. But that is literally, kids can sit in their game consoles with all of their headgear and all their doodads and stuff and maneuver their way around a virtual museum. But the rest of us who don't have all that stuff will still be able to navigate our way through that. So check it out if you're interested. There's some cool stuff there. And the other one is the maps. So we were able to overlay 6, I think, 6 historical maps onto the current topography, according to Google, so that you can see what the Shields map looked like in the early 20th century or mid 20th century, or a Civil War map looked like, or even back to, I think we might have Johnny Smith's or some. We have something from that early era anyway. So there's all these interesting ways you can interact with the map and with markers of everything that we can, for the moment, note on it. So you'll want to spend a little time playing around with the new website is the point. We still have collections assessment continuing. We do have a collections committee. So we're trying to identify, because here's what people say to me most. Well, what do you need a museum for? Well, you know, I don't know, 400 plus years of history. Let's start there. Well, yeah, but what stuff do you have? Okay, well, we're working on that. There have been people collecting things for a lot of time, but they've been in sort of different lists here and different lists there. So we have a committee of really very strong professionals working to put all of that together and make sure that we're going to be able to tell the stories that we want to tell. So if we don't have it, we'll be looking for it, and if we do have it, we need to make sure we're cataloging it, if that makes sense. We are working with in a fundraising plan, and that's one of the things I'm going to get into in a little depth here. But know that anybody who's a member will likely be asked in the next 2 months if you want to participate in a study about whether we can raise enough money to build a museum. And you don't have to say, yes, I love it, or yes, I want to write a check. That's not the point. The point is they're trying to gauge interest and trying to gauge interest also in potential financial things. So we're hoping by June that they will come back to us with how we should proceed to raise, brace yourselves, $30 million, because that's what we reckon we're going to need. And our financial planner people are telling us that's a totally doable thing, because we have all the infrastructure in place. So we're like, let's do a feasibility and prove that. You know, just to be sure, before we get too far, much further down the road. I'm really sure we can, but I think it's going to be an issue of, it's a little bit of everything. There's, you know, sort of like a three-legged stool. You're going to have some government involvement. You're going to have some corporate involvement. You're going to have some public involvement. And if you get all of that going, you could probably pull that off. So that's the game plan. So FY25, we're supposed to be identifying a funding source. And that's also what's happening. Hi, welcome. Come on in, just have a seat. So what's happening right now, this minute, is the Board of Supervisors has on their budget plans, it has been put forward by the county administration to give us permanently 1% of the transient occupancy tax. So let's make sure everybody understands what that is, because we're going to ask you to do something shortly. But the transient occupancy tax is what is paid by hotel guests. That's that little extra tax when you go to a hotel that they throw on no matter where you are anywhere in the world. That has a specific dedicated use that can only be used for tourism purposes. And our museum is in that category. So we're asking for 1% of that transient occupancy tax. Right now, it's looking good. They will want to hear from us. So we're going to show you what we sent them so that you can help us with that. Our goal, according to our business plan, is to break ground in 2026 or 2027. So 3 years from now, we're going to have raised $30 million and put a shovel in the ground. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We just all have to believe that. And I'll be working, all oars pulling in the same direction. So to do that, we've got to maintain what we're doing now. All of that said, I think I'm going to switch over to a different, I don't know how to do that on this thing. Steve, do you know how I get out of this? There.
Okay.
Right, here we go. I want to walk you through this publication that we have created, that we have provided to the Board of Supervisors, and we are going to be emailing it to all members in the next week, because we want you to know the details when people ask you about what the heck is that thing going on over there. All right, so let me see if I can get myself down one page. Pretty snazzy, I must say. We have, you know, table of contents even. Woo! So what's our vision? We will be a state-of-the-art museum and cultural center highlighting the county's rich local national history, showcasing the county's current role in shaping society and cultivating a vibrant future through programs of critical acclaim. We will inspire visitors to make a personal and emotional connection to Stafford through the interpretation of history, hosting of inclusive cultural events, and establishing programs that facilitate the exchange of ideas, knowledge, perspectives, and experiences. That's the vision. That's where we're headed. Next slide. This story needs to be told. It'll highlight the parallels between historical and contemporary challenges to motivate people to seek positive change in our community and the world. We can recapture lost tourism and sales tax revenue by leveraging and attracting, supporting hospitality facilities, driving new tax revenues to offset our operational costs. And we really, as we all know, there's nobody in this room, there's nobody in this county that doesn't know that we need a central gathering place. We do not have a gathering place anywhere really, but certainly not in the center of the county, and we need that. So we plan to host musical, theatrical, lecture series, community events which bring us together to celebrate who we are in the past, in the present, and in the future. So, come on, next page. Okay, this is a lot of blah, blah, blah. You can read it all later, but the bottom line is, this is how we know what we're going to need. We have consulted experts in the museum field. We know the square footage we're going to need. We have ideas of, you know, how much parking we're going to need. What we need to envelop technology and make sure that our museum is up to date and high tech and engaging, to host current or to cultural events, be a state-of-the-art visitor center. So you can see from this colorful graph down here, that's sort of a visual of the space allocation. Exhibit space is obviously the largest. Auditorium is in gray. Facility support, obviously you need that kind of thing anyway. Hallways, restrooms, lobby, reception, administration, some kind of educational space for classrooms. So functional requirements. Again, this is all stuff that we have sent the Board of Supervisors to show how serious we are. Is this the exact layout? No. We'll let an architect do that. That's what they're experts at. But we know that we need this kind of space. One of the things that's driving this, and you'll see that here shortly in a minute or two, is the Langley Aerodrome number 5, which is intended to be hanging in our lobby. So it's going to have to be a high ceilinged lobby, similar to what's at the airport, for instance, right? Any number of places like that in the area. So, but if you imagine that, then you can imagine we have this wonderful space with something historical hanging above us, and obviously then you have some kind of reception space that you can use then as another gathering space along the way. So it's a 2-story atrium. An auditorium, we want to seat 500 people. There's some specific reasons for that number, but we're going to build an auditorium that seats 500 people because we know that the region will support it and has asked for that kind of thing in the past for a number of reasons, including the school system does not have auditorium space for most of their middle schools, as an example. So there's sort of a ready rent built into that. You know, if they want to rent it for us for a certain number of days a year or something like that, great. So you see what we're doing. We're building in engagement, we're building in utility, we're building in visual engagement and getting people to come in and learn about history. Curation space, that's exhibit space, collection, storage, research, administrative, multi-purpose spaces. So that's all, this is all based on current American Museum standards and current building standards. So we've got some site requirements that we sent them. They wanted us to tell them exactly where we want it. What we want to say is we want to be in the middle of the county. And we don't want to be next to Buc-ee's. Okay, that was me. I didn't say that in the document, but we don't want to be next to Buc-ee's. So we do think that the site has to be large enough to accommodate the building, but also any service roads, parking. We envision this as a place where buses can pull in. We also envision this as an outdoor space. For instance, one of the things that we've learned as we've been, my committee has been gathering ideas all around 4 years. Anytime you've gone anywhere, it's like, oh, I like that idea. I was at some national park where the bathrooms were accessible from outside even if the lobby was closed. So what does that mean? It means if they're having some event in the park, they don't have to bring in portable toilets. Yes. That's just too smart for words. And you're not having these ugly portable toilets. So we're going to try to design to include some of these kinds of ideas that we've been gathering. And we are always looking for that. We're not at the design stage yet, but we're identifying what we need. I hope I'm not boring anybody yet. So, how much is that going to cost? $25 million in today's dollars. You know, if we mess around, it's just like the school budgets, right? If you want to hold on to that for a couple more years and debate it again 2-3 years from now, it might be 30. We're gonna raise 30,000 or 30 million because, you know, that's what it's going to end up being by the time you get done. And what does that mean? You know, some of that is in collections, some of that is in land cost, soft cost, site development, outdoor venue, building and construction costs, right? We have consulted local developers and local designers of these kinds of projects to make sure that we're not off the mark. These are exactly what these kinds of things cost to do. It shouldn't really surprise anyone, but it's probably a bigger number than most people are thinking. So the TOT allocation, that transient occupancy tax, you know, that's where we're headed. That's what we're asking for. It doesn't cost the taxpayer a single thing. Hotels are occupied at about 70 to 80% occupancy most of the time based on government contractors that use those hotels. Not going to hurt anybody. I mean, theoretically, we could probably say it's our tax dollars at work in a way, but it's, you know, way through a convoluted way. But nothing local Stafford taxes shouldn't be part of that TOT allocation. And that's the reason that they should do this. Because they can support this, it can be built independently. And once we have a firm commitment from government that we will have some kind of regular income, then other doors will open. Lots of other doors. Grants, as well as big corporate donors. And we are in discussion with them. That's part of that whole feasibility study that we're doing right now. So I'm sorry I don't have the results of that for you yet. So, that's part one of my presentation. I guess I'm going to say that we could ask questions at the end, but if you have anything, throw it out. It's a small group. But you're going to receive this. Anybody that's a member is going to receive this in their inbox in the next few days, that presentation. And specifically what we're hoping is that you will contact your supervisor to indicate support for the museum. That's what we're looking for. And honestly, they need to hear that. They need to hear that there's more than 3 or 4 of the same old people that come up in front of them, including me, with all sorts of amazing stuff, to say, yeah, we do want a place in the middle of the county. We do want a place where we can gather, where we can hang out, where we can have fun events. By the way, just show of hands, how many people here are involved in trying to plan events other than for our organization? Right. How hard is it to find an outdoor place to hold an event in this county?
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly right. That's kind of what we're thinking. And so we want to be another one of those options. We want to be a place where people can use the parking lot for the street painting festival or a concert or, you know, project onto the sidewall to have, you know, movies in the park. It's not that we're taking anything away from anybody else that's doing anything else. We want to be another venue. We want to be another option. Yes, ma'am?
Sue, I think you should talk about our true name. You know, Stafford Museum and Cultural Center.
And Cultural Center, yeah.
So Cultural Center means
for a reason, to bring people together.
Yeah.
Museum and Cultural Center, and that's really how we're going to get people in to learn about our history, right? Because we won't do it if we're just saying, come and look at a case that has some cool stuff in it, because we do have cool stuff, lots of cool stuff. But we won't get everybody to come in unless we can engage them in ways, and we got to get them in the door. When you get them in the door, then they're going to go, wow, that's really interesting. Which, by the way, I encourage you on the way out of this meeting here today to check out that glass case out there by the elevators that has all sorts of really cool, interesting stuff about Hunter's Ironworks in it. Right? That's just a small example of a place that we're trying to get people to know that there's some history in the area. All right, let me continue this slideshow. We have talked about this before, our story. We are the county that built the nation. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but this story is a lot more than the Union Army was here. This story is a lot more than, you know, George Washington was raised here. Those are the Pocahontas. What are the 3 or 4 things people always say? Pocahontas, George Washington, Union Army during the Civil War.
Captain John Smith.
Captain Smith. Right, there you go. You just hit the big trifecta. But there's a whole bunch more, a whole lot more. The story of religious freedom has a lot to do with Stafford County. The original, I'm talking like in the 17th century story of religious freedom. And the economic value of this county. And for goodness sake, hopefully you all know by now that the White House and the Capitol were built from stone dug out of Stafford County. Literally. So those kinds of stories are out there, but there's also lots and lots of other stories that we keep unearthing and we keep finding. And as people find them, we're going to put them on that website and we're going to try to highlight them as we go along. But there's modern stories too. There's definitely modern stories too. It's one of the things Steve and I have been working on with the website, trying to look at the 21st century history. And there's some interesting things there. You know, we have the person in this county that convinced the state to celebrate Martin Luther King Day. And we have the person in this county who created the law because of the loss of his daughter, but created the law that requires CPR availability and defibrillators in every school in the Commonwealth. Right? Those are really valuable historical things that have happened here in this county in this century. So we want to keep an eye on that too. And we have all sorts of other stories we haven't told yet. So, just a quick glance at this. We got a whole bunch of community partnerships, and we will continue to work on community partnerships. No man is an island. No organization can do it alone. And we intentionally have set out to make sure that we are working with as many organizations for mutual benefit. Because that's the best way to move things forward. If it doesn't benefit everybody, then if you're just asking somebody for something, that can't last forever. But things like our relationship with the regional library system, running a bunch of programs for us and using their resources to run a bunch of things for us. The Education Foundation and the public schools, right now we have that big mural project we've been working on now for 3 years. We're up to 19, I think, have already been done. We're about to roll into another series soon. The Rotary clubs, the combined Rotary clubs run Via Calori Stafford, which is the big street painting festival, which is physically our largest event that we hold every year in September. So you get an idea. We're working with a lot of partners. Via Calori Stafford, as I mentioned, is in September. The Stafford Art Fair will be in October. Juneteenth, we work with the NAACP, Stafford NAACP, on both Martin Luther King Day and Juneteenth, so that's coming up, and the school mural grants. So those are existent programs now. So the Langley Aerodrome Project, we couldn't be more excited about this. It is unveiling this spring. Our wonderful historian, Geraldine Ebby, contributed to the interpretation of Stafford 1896. I'm going to show you a video here in a second. And what's most important to get from this is that this is history and technology, right? This is the kind of technology that we're talking about trying to use when we build a museum. We've had an opportunity in working with the Langley Flight Foundation to do the interpretive work, to help them with the interpretation and all of that information. And so this is really wicked cool stuff. So let's take a look at a couple of quick videos. I don't need all of that, whatever that error message is. Do I want to enable the extension, Steve?
No, not now.
No.
I still could see you and myself in that Via Calori picture. We were this big.
I'm hoping we got video, we got audio. I'm not hearing any audio. Is anybody hearing it?
It's because the audio is turned off down at the bottom.
At the bottom, see the X and the blue on the right-hand side.
Right, over here?
Yes,
Yeah,
right
the
there.
X. Yeah,
There you go. Next one.
Next one over.
That.
Yeah, uncheck the
Oh,
X
you have
and
good
Just
vision.
pull it over and pull it out.
Scoot it to the right. I'm getting there. Well, that's good theory. I'm not sure how to.
There it goes.
There you go.
and
Right. Check out the video. It's wicked cool. This would be us, all of us at the Smithsonian. We've been behind the scenes at the Smithsonian, working with them and trying to understand and measure everything about the original in order to build this. This is so annoying.
I know. Why isn't it working?
It's probably another speaker
Well, there's
inside the computer too.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
could
probably
be.
turned off.
It could be.
Because they turned it off out there almost.
Oh, it's up there. It's on that
could-
one.
Yeah, and
Probably
it's
is.
probably
All right,
turned off
well-
within that.
All right.
Dadgummit.
So this is Kip from Kip Aerodrome. He's the one who's actually building this for us in the Dallas area. He's standing outside of the Smithsonian talking
That's
about
amazing.
all the details about how it was. By the way, this is easy to come by, langfound.org. It's in my slide. You can go and watch it later. But understand that this was a steam-powered machine. 1896, the first ever mechanical flight anywhere in the world. Not manned, but mechanical flight.
Before Langley.
Well, yeah. So, oh, Scott might even know how to turn on the sound.
No, he
No,
doesn't.
he wouldn't.
I appreciate your optimism.
I'm gonna switch over to try to show you the other one. This is a little more interesting. This is the virtual tour. This is actually in Stafford Airport. I'm gonna turn it on and we'll see. You might not be able to hear anything. I'm gonna press any button to continue. But this is a 360-degree camera that we took in, and literally you can traverse around and look and see how it goes anywhere. You know, you can see we're at the airport on the air side. We can go into the terminal.
So
You can
amazing.
see the flyer up here on the top, right? And then there will be kiosks that will be around. There is going to be all sorts of stuff on the walls to help you see and learn more about Langley. I'm not sure why we're going around in a little circle, but we are. You get the idea. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. Keep going. Let me get back to get you to one of these terminals and one of these kiosks. If you haven't never been in the airport, it is lovely space. All right, I'm gonna go right here to one of the kiosks so you can see what's gonna happen. So you will have, it's hard to see from this, but the aerodrome is right above you. Don't stop, just stop. All right, so you have this, that's a big screen TV up on the wall. So anybody looking at that kiosk can project it to a whole bunch of people there, students, assembled groups, whatever. That is Samuel Langley, and we're going back around in circles. So it's obviously not my skill set. The point is, this technology is amazing, and we are using this to tell these experiences at the airport. This is going to unveil May 6th. May 6th.
It's already there, other
It's
than the
not already.
kiosk,
Well, I mean,
right?
the airport is there, but the Langley Aerodrome is not there yet. We're bringing that in April. It is being constructed. It's almost done now. And that'll be coming in from Dallas, and that'll be hung, and then the kiosks will go in. So there'll be 3 kiosks, a whole bunch of interesting display
Wow.
around, very interactive kiosks. I wonder what happens if I do the virtual tomorrow. Press any button. I guess that tells me what happens. No, I'm good. I'm gonna go back. So, that said, the Langley Flight Foundation project has been good and is going to be very good for us. I will note to you that it is not coincidental in our minds that we're going to unveil that amazing high tech right before the budget vote. So,
Strategy.
hopefully that will help us too. The point there is we can use history in really interesting ways and bring it to the masses in a way that they want to see it, but also not blow our minds completely for all of us over 60, right? To be able to look at it and appreciate that we're talking about a lot of interesting history. And this story has not been overtold. This one has not been told enough. So this is going to be good in that regard too, to say, this is not George, this is not John Smith, this is not Pocahontas, and this is not the Civil War, right? This is actually the end of the 19th century, but this is modern history in effect, because it kicks off. The Wright brothers did consult Langley on his experiments. We're not saying we were the first manned flight. Don't anybody get all excited about that. We can't say we're first in flight. We're not arguing with North Carolina. So I'm going to wrap things up here shortly. We're going to continue to grow the existing programs and public awareness in our unique culture and history. We have an African American Heritage Driving Tour coming in the fall this year. We have a wonderful group of historians and Black historians who are working on that right now, along with the University of Mary Washington. Social Studies Showcase, we mentioned, is the 24th of February next week, this weekend.
This weekend.
Langley Aerodrome number 5 is going to be available for anybody anytime the airport is open, beginning May 7th. The digital scavenger hunt still continues indefinitely. It's on our new website. It's also at the library site. They hosted it. Juneteenth will be at Colonial Forge High School. They're still locking in a date. Via Calori, September 28th and 29th at Stafford Airport. Stafford Art Festival at Mine Road, Embry Mill, October 5th and 6th. So those are all on the calendars now. You can pull out your calendars and mark them. So our next step is this identifying a funding source. We're going to do this email campaign to you. Why build it? Help us out. Send some emails to your supervisors. Let them know that you're interested. We're going to continue to work with the county to identify a site for the museum, continue our collections committee, implement our fundraising feasibility plan, implement our business plan, and working on some upcoming discussions for policy on membership and personnel descriptions. Because once we are funded, we will need to get some staff, because I'm tired. That said, I think we may be there. So, anybody got any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
One time we were thinking about having it possibly in this area so we could use this parking lot and having it across the way. That
We're working with Stafford County on whatever locations they think might be feasible. They own some land. We might look at other land options. As I said at the very beginning, the whole idea of the sort of downtown Stafford, or what is it now, Stafford?
Destination Stafford.
Destination Stafford.
Those
things
about
are,
that.
well, there's an area that the county owns, there's property that the county owns on the other side of Courthouse Road right here that's between Courthouse and Hospital and US 1 and I-95.
And that's
And there's
the
some
downtown.
space in there, and there was conversations, there's continued conversations about turning that into more of a center of the county kind of idea. Okay, we're in. But we've been in now for 4 or 5 years. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward with the idea that it doesn't have to be our only, as a matter of fact, it's not our only option, right? We could go all sorts of interesting places. So it's just a question of defining that. But they do have a planner that is working with us, and we have regular updates and we have regular talks about it, and we're gonna go raise money and build a museum. That's what my head is about it, but I'm not the board, and the board will make some decisions when we get choices. Anybody got any other questions? What can I tell you? Yes, sir.
I didn't see a library in there, in your plan.
The county has 3 libraries now, 2 big ones and then 1 sort of ancillary library now. And the Central Rappahannock Library System is independent of, they act as an entity that is multi-jurisdictional. They're funded from every jurisdiction they are in. So we certainly wouldn't want to get in their ways. Are you saying a library for our history stuff?
Stafford history.
Yeah, Stafford
most
history
museums I've seen have a library component in there where you can do research.
Yeah, we are working on some options related to that. One of the things we talked about very early on, and I think we're still there, is that we would rather work with people who are experts at paper management than try to become paper managers ourselves. There's a lot of paper that we have and that we could even more collect. So I'm talking about maybe the Central Rappahannock Heritage Center and or the library system in the Virginiana room. So we may be talking to different people about creating a Stafford collection so that there's a really solid ability to research and do that. The storage that would be required and the facility conditions to maintain a lot of that stuff is pretty high. Pretty high. I mean, in terms of air conditioning systems, separate storage facility, you know, all of that. We've been researching a lot of that. So we think we may go with places that already have that ability, but we haven't locked in yet.
Yeah, the other part is the county normally needs an archives storage. And if you're looking for more government money, if Stafford doesn't have a place to document and have it for all their records, you could possibly tie that in.
Thank you for that, and I will look at that, but I will say to you that there's people in this room who might kind of laugh at the idea that Stafford has spent much energy archiving much. I believe a lot of what they were archiving might be in Geraldine's possession because she
Exactly.
saved it. But just to say, yes, they should. But we have some storage in their current archive collection storage, I guess that's what I would call it, and I wouldn't call it very high tech or very protected. I would definitely not call it that. Yeah, we're worried about the stuff that's there now, our stuff, in terms of the conditions in that space.
But if you're looking for money,
yeah, maybe.
If they need a place to store it, I know there's one in Alabama where they combine their archives, it pays for their salaries, and it probably tripled the size of the original building.
I'll put it on my list of things to inquire. Yeah, absolutely right. It's a worthy question.
Where in Alabama?
Montgomery.
She's from Alabama originally. Well, Florida originally.
Sweet home.
Anybody have any other questions? I hope this has been informative. I hope that it's filled you in and that you have some idea of what we're up to. We continue to do these public outreach programs on purpose. To show that there's viability, that there's a way to engage. We're involved in the Revolutionary 250 programs that are getting ready to start in a couple years and a lot of other regional efforts. But mostly we're trying to make sure that people know that we have great stories to tell here. The only other caveat I would say is if you don't already know how to reach me, grab one of my cards back there in the back. Always looking for new. Always looking for new stories too. There's always interesting stuff. And I'm not just talking about to give us things, but stories that you are like, how come nobody ever did a story on this? Cool, tell us. And we'll find out and see if we can find it. That's something Steve and I tripped over a lot in planning the website. So. That said, I thank you all very much for your time. I don't know, I think I was too long, so.
You're good.
Great.